Today, we're going to talk about what you can do to get the most out of conferences, how to approach and work with brands, and why critically looking at the bad is a key to moving forward with the good. Take it away, Cami.
Success comes at a price, and that is through failure, mistakes, and sometimes questioning if all of this craziness is even worth it. And that's when you put your shoulder down, you get resourceful, and do the work that I needed to do.
Hey there, I'm Jason Logston, and this is Makin all about helping you serve your fans, grow your income, and get the most out of your blog. I know probably a few hundred bloggers I've met over the years, and not a single one has had all the answers when they started blogging, or even when they've been blogging for 5 or 10 years. There's always something new to learn, whether it's SEO, or how to use YouTube, or just trying to get better at food photography. And one of the best places to do this is at a food conference. You can learn from people like yourself who have gone through the process, they've figured out what they need to know, and they can kind of show you and teach you how to do it. But a lot of bloggers are introverts. It can be really scary to go to a conference. I was really nervous the first few times I went, and I still get nervous when I go into a new room filled with strangers that I don't know. So I wanted to discuss some ways that you can get the most out of a conference and how you can feel more comfortable at one. And I think today's guest is the perfect person to help with that process. In 2015, as a registered nurse with absolutely no business, sales, or event planning experience, she founded Everything Food Conference because she wanted to create a place where food, lifestyle, and chef influencers have a place to call home. In 5 years, she built a brand and a team around serving influencers while turning Everything Food into the largest conference for professional food influencers. Just blows my mind. And if you attended the conference last year, you also know that she is occasionally a dance superstar. She has an incredible story, and I'm so excited to talk to today's guest, the founder and CEO of Everything Food Conference, Cami Kilgore. Cami, welcome to Makin Bacon.
Well, thank you for that kind and generous introduction. Thank you.
I really appreciate you coming on. You've created Everything Food, which is an incredible conference. If anyone out there is on the fence about whether you should go or not, you should. It's great. You're going to learn a lot, meet a lot of wonderful people. It's a really welcoming environment. And through doing this, I think you have a wealth of information that you can share with my audience, many of which may have been to a conference or may just be thinking about going to one for the first time. So I can't wait to dive in and learn from your expertise.
Well, thank you. I'm excited to be here.
One of the things I like to start with is, what is it like around your dinner table on a typical day?
Oh, that is an awesome question. So me and my husband, because of the growth of my business over 1.5 years ago, almost 2 years ago, my husband was able to leave his corporate job, and we are working together now on this business that continues to grow. It is this living, wonderful creature. We also have 3 small children, an 8, a 5, and an almost 2-year-old. And so we are just constantly juggling. So actually around our dinner table, we make sure all of our kids are there, and we start off because a lot of things that we have learned around growing a business is all about the mind and the power of strategy behind the way that you think, because that impacts how you act. And so with my kids being really small, we really start with, what is the one positive thing that made you feel happy today? So we all take turns, and sometimes it's a piece of candy, or sometimes my son got a new baseball bat yesterday, so that was his positive thing.
Awesome.
But we talk about that, and then we also talk about things. Was there anything that made you feel sad today? And then we all share that, because then I also share things about with that, and then we talk about, okay, well, what are things that we can do? What are constructive things that we can do? It's okay that we feel sad or we feel disappointed, but then what are things? And then it's so fun to start seeing my 8 and 5. My 2-year-old, he's just busy, so he's usually just throwing food, and we're just
That's what brings him joy.
Exactly. He's so funny, makes us all laugh. And so, but it's fun to start hearing my 8 and 5-year-old even provide suggestions for me and my husband, because we'll ask them well, what do you think? Mommy felt disappointed about this. What do you guys think? And it's fun to hear them like start. So really those are our dinner conversations. It's all about like what was positive, what made us feel sad, and what can we do to like make tomorrow even better.
I feel like sometimes as sophisticated adults, we also overthink our problems and solutions. I can imagine sometimes the 8-year-old's like, why don't you just do this? You're like, because no, that makes perfect sense. I don't know why I'm not doing that.
Right. Like, why do we? I know. Because, like, I mean, there's so many things that I wish we could just be like kids where, something happens, they let it roll off their back and they move on to the next thing. And so, yes, I do love that where the craziness of building and growing a business that our kids are still very little because it helps us really like zone down on what is most important and like you said bring perspective into this whole thing that we're doing.
I love that concept of looking at the good and looking at kind of the bad and trying to solve the bad. And I
Mhm.
think a lot of people don't necessarily, most of us are in a good situation compared to other people in the world, that we have a lot of positives in our life, and really acknowledging those and trying to make sure that you are thankful for what is good is something that is always a valuable thing for keeping you motivated and happy and moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's also very healthy for us to kind of pinpoint, like, because I think sometimes at the end of the day or even beginning of the day, we wake up and we feel that heavy burden of stress, or we're just kind of already on edge, or like we just kind of feel off. And I think once we can really, like, what is it? Like, what is it that's making me feel this way and kind of pinpoint a feeling? And that's what I want to pass off on to my children is that feeling stressed, feeling sad, feeling disappointed, frustrated, all of those things are actually very, very normal and part of being a human. But like, what are constructive things that we can do to move forward with these feelings and hit them straight on? And so, it's a practice that me and my husband have been doing for a while. And now we're really trying to incorporate our children because I'm hoping to teach them that at a very young age.
I think that ties into something that's always impressed me about you is that, you run everything food. You built this thing from the ground up. And I think there's a lot of people in the audience that see you or see someone like Pat Flynn or even regular speakers like me. They think like they have it together. And I could never do what they do. I can't even get the sponsored posts back that I want. I can't get the advertisers to write back to me. I don't have the traffic I want. I just don't know what I'm doing like Cami does. And
Mhm.
I feel like it'd be easy for you to play into that kind of facade of like, oh yeah, no, I'm just always crushing it. But you own it. You don't do that. You've been very upfront and honest about the rejection that you've received, the business challenges you've had to overcome, and the struggles you've gone through. What advice do you have for someone that might look at successful people like yourself and think, they don't believe in themselves quite as much as they could?
Yes, that is a great question because I am really, really passionate about this. Is that, I've read a lot of books and studied a lot of people, and mindset and mental strength strategies have become really, really important to me, and something where I'm like almost obsessed to learn. Because the reality is, there's not a single successful person out there now or in the history who have not made some major mistakes, failures, wanted to quit, question why they're doing that. And guess what? I still have those days, but I have a strategy in place to be able to push through that. Because the only difference, I really feel like the only difference between those who are successful and those who aren't, it's not crazy talent that they're more attractive, they're the most smart, they're most whatever. I sincerely feel like it comes down to the principle of not quitting and having grit. Because when we're entrepreneurs building something, we have almost this vision, this idea, this place we want to go, and that is the driving factor. So when these mistakes come, when these failures come, when these roadblocks come, you keep your eye on that goal. It may mean that you need to pivot. It may mean that you are going to do something that you never thought that you were going to end up doing, but that you keep your eye on that goal and you just don't quit. I want to be careful when I say that, because I think what people mean is like, oh, now I got to work 20 hours a day. I'm like killing myself. I'm burning the candle at both ends, which yes, there is a component to that. For example, even yesterday was a stressful day for me and my business. And so what I purposely chose to do is to take a break. I chose to step back and do things. I actually went and played basketball with my husband in the morning, which like I'm not a basketball player at all, but it was something that I purposely did to shake it up, do something different, and take a step back. So when I look at my day yesterday, I kind of quit for a day, but it was very strategic and on purpose because I knew I needed to take a step back to kind of look over everything. And today I'm refreshed. I'm focused again. I'm now ready to put my shoulder down and do the work that I needed to do. So when I say to not quit, I mean do not quit on that dream and that vision that is in your head. And if you're making mistakes, if you're failing, if you're hitting roadblocks, that's when you look yourself in the mirror and you say, awesome, good job, because I'm on the way to success. Success comes at a price. And that is through failure, mistakes, and sometimes questioning if all of this craziness is even worth it. And that's when you put your shoulder down, you get resourceful. And that's why I've been very, very transparent, is because when I started this, I, like you said in my intro, I legitimately had no experience in event planning, in sponsor sales, and I wasn't a big blogger. I didn't have any big name in the food influencer industry at all. But what I had was this vision and feeling in my gut that I knew I was supposed to create this community that felt welcome and united and focused on just completely killing it and reaching our dreams, and also a sense of community. And I realized that that relied on me. So I look at my 5-year journey, and I had to go through that rejections, those mistakes, because at this point now, with the community that I have been blessed to serve and be in front of, they are experiencing those exact things. How can I truly serve a community if I myself have not gone through it? And so I think that that's where, in those really dark times, because it is hard, if you're like right in the middle of those big mistakes and failure, it's really hard to take that step back and have a moment of clarity, because you're in the thick of the emotion and the frustration and all the negative talk that's going on in your head. It's really, really hard to take those steps back. But that's where, I teach a lot of mental strength strategies, because in those deep, dark times when you just want to quit, you don't want to keep going, that's when those strategies kick in.
And I feel like it's so important to develop those strategies when things are going well, when you can intellectually figure out what you're going to do and you're not in that kind of emotional state of panicking. And that's the worst time to try to figure out how you can cope with stuff. You need to do it when things are well, and you can try stuff out and get used to kind of make it a habit.
Yes, you need to establish your baseline. So I was just at a conference, and one of the biggest overall influencers, he was speaking at this conference, and he made a comment, and it's really kind of stuck with me. He said, mental health issues among influencers are running rampant. So here we're really good on video and on social media and on our blogs, bringing our best selves where we're happy, positive, and all those things. But behind the scenes, he had a whole bunch of statistics to back it up, how mental health among influencers is a really big problem, which is so easy to understand, right? We are you're putting yourself out there to be completely vulnerable to the entire world. And the world right now is kind of cranky. So if they make your recipe and it doesn't work out, then they want to like burn your house down. So that's kind of the climate we're in. And absolutely, I have had many comments that have kind of made me question about this whole thing. And that's where I focus on a daily basis. This isn't a, oh, hey, just think positive type of thing. No, this is I approach this as if if you wanted to get better at food photography, there's a process that you go to. You practice. You practice, practice, practice. If you want to get better at SEO, you practice and you learn and you practice and you learn. And mental health strategies, I don't know why. Like, I think we're having a lot more life coaches and those things come out, but it is the most vital skill that each of us will have for our business. And that's exactly what it is. You learn and you practice, practice, practice. 8 months ago, I went to another conference and I met this awesome person, and I was kind of talking with him because I was like, oh my goodness, I was feeling stressed and kind of talking with him about my business. And he goes, tell me about your morning routine. And I was like, my morning routine, this really doesn't have to do with what. And he's like, no, let's talk about your morning routine. Because by the end of your morning routine, you should feel like you're ready to just take on the world. And so I started to reflect on my morning routine, and it's hard. We have 3 kids. They're up, they want to eat breakfast, they want to be held, we got to get off to school. Like, it is pure chaos. And we say I loves you, we have a prayer, we have breakfast, but it's chaos and everything. So I looked through that and I was like, the pattern that I was doing in my morning really was not setting me up for success during the day. And so my morning routine has changed, and I've had to be very deliberate and purposeful, but it's been practice, practice, practice. And not every morning goes perfectly, but it is a drastic improvement when I was just kind of going through life and just kind of handling the kids and the chaos. But now that I approach my mornings with that goal in mind, by the end of my morning routine, I better be ready to just take on the world, whatever is going to come my way that day. So I kind of offer that to anybody who is listening. Review your morning routine. So what adjustments I made to mine is now I'm waking up a little bit earlier, not tons earlier, just about 10-15 minutes earlier, so that I can have lunches packed and I can be ready to go. I'm already changed into my workout clothes. I know that my kids are going to wake up and they want to eat right that second. So I already make preparations because I know what's coming. So then I get my daughter off to school, and then I'm immediately working out. And then also I make sure that the music, it's actually my EFC playlist. And so I listen in the morning because I'm like, this needs to be music where you're pumped up. So I'm working out, I'm listening to this music, I'm dancing with my kids. And so after that, why I'm drinking my protein drink and stuff like that, I choose to listen to the scriptures, but I encourage people to listen to something that's really uplifting and something that they can just shut out. Oh, that was a very important thing that I forgot to say. I do not check my social media or my email until my morning routine is done, because the stress of opening up your email, the stress of opening up your Facebook, there's many studies, the psychology behind that. So purposely choose to just postpone that, because I know a lot of us, we want to grab the phone and look at our emails and social. And when I do that, it does throw off my morning. So just postponing it enough to where I'm focused on my kids, I'm focused on my family. I pump the house full of music while we work out and dancing. That is true. We really do workout dance parties in the morning. And then I turn off the music. I listen to something where I can be in tuned, where I can build my relationship with God. If you don't believe in God, but have some type of meditation, some type of quiet time, or some type of if it's a podcast or something that can help you feel at peace, whatever that is for you, invite that in. And then I shower, get ready, and go on with my day. But that change in my morning routine, where I've been very, very purposeful, it's been a game changer for me. In addition to all the other things that I do, just even switching up that I'm attacking my day with purpose.
I think it's really valuable to look at our days and figure out what is causing us to act in different ways. You were talking about food photography earlier. Like if you take a picture that's not quite right, you don't go, well, maybe next time. You try to analyze what went wrong and change stuff. And I feel like there are these kind of things that can really have huge impacts on our day that are minor things. It's like in photography, if you get your lighting right and you've tweaked that, like suddenly all your pictures are better looking and just more vivid from one small change. And I feel like coming up with a morning routine, or if you work in the evening, like an evening routine, whatever you need to do to get into like, okay, now it's time to work and this is my time. It can have a huge impact on your productivity and on your attitude towards the work that you're putting out there.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. And, just with your reference with food photography, where you look at the picture and you're like, whatever. But once you figure out natural light and your photos start getting better, it gets you more excited, and you keep practicing and you keep practicing. It is the same thing with the mental strategies, that once you make little tiny tweaks and you're like, oh, hey, this is actually helping me. This is able to, that you want to do more, and you keep practicing and everything like that. And because sincerely, the most valuable thing any of us have for our business is these beautiful brains that we have.
I think that's, if you get nothing else from the rest of the podcast, I think this is what you should take away, that work on your mental strength and your strategies when things are going good, and push through when you're starting to feel those doubts. It doesn't mean you can't reassess your goals or reassess your direction or pivot, but don't do that just out of a fear from moving forward, or because you're running into difficulty. Do it from a place of trying to reach the goals that you do want to reach, and keep working and trying to improve on your strategies, and you will get better at it. It takes time, just like any other skill, but you will get better the more time you put into it.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so had you on to talk about conferences. I think what we just talked about is super valuable, but you are putting on Everything Food. It's coming up at the end of April. It's very exciting. If you don't have your tickets yet, go to everythingfoodconference.com and you can get your tickets there. It's going to be a great time. And I wanted to kind of start with a focus on people that haven't been to conferences. So if someone hasn't been to a conference before, they don't even know what that means in a lot of cases. What can they expect when they come to something like Everything Food?
Sure. So there's usually three main reasons why an attendee comes. They want to network with each other. So other attendees, we are mostly working at home behind our computers, very lonely, but this is a way for you to come and to network and find other people, a lot of masterminds, a lot of friendships, partnerships, and everything, just even from networking with each other through attendees, have come out of the conference. So networking with each other, networking with brands. We have amazing brands, big brands that are coming this year. It makes me really excited to see the growth of that. And I do all of the education up front. They know that they are coming specifically to meet food professional influencers who want to network and work with these brands. I educate them on pay. I educate them on strategies. I educate them on communication, on at the conference, what is the best way, because the main goal for influencers to be there is to make relationships with these brands in order to form long-term partnerships.
So you've warmed them up a lot, that they know what to expect and they know how to interact and deal with food bloggers.
Yeah, so that's the benefit of coming to a specific food influencer conference for these brands, because I've done so much prep versus if you go to just like a trade show or something where you're having to do all of that initial pitching and all of that type of stuff. Me and my team have already done that. I've truly educated them, the people who are in the room, and so they're ready there to make those partnerships.
Yeah, none of the sponsors would be there if they didn't believe that bloggers have value and that they are interested in working with bloggers, or they just wouldn't be at the conference because they're paying money to be there to meet food bloggers.
Oh my goodness. Okay, let's talk about this for a minute, because so I've gone to a million trade shows. So and walk the floors and talk with brands, because that's how I've made a lot of relationships and pitched them sponsorships for the conference. And so a couple years ago when I was doing it, I was still having to explain what influencer marketing was. So even just the foundational, that they're like, oh yeah, these bloggers, influencers, like, but in the last 3 years, there has been a shift. So now they know they need to. I mean, there's a lot of big brands who have already figured out how to do it, but there is this shift in food brands that is going to come. Budgets. There's a whole bunch of studies coming out that people are shifting from their advertising budget into their marketing and influencer marketing budget. In this next couple years, there is this shift where brands are finally realizing, hey, the consumer is not shopping like it used to, going to retailer stores or just a retailer. The consumer shopping a completely different way. So that bloggers and influencers and reviews and all of those things are now a driving force when the consumer is making a decision to purchase a product. So the brands now know they absolutely need to work with influencers. So a lot of brands, they still don't know how. And so that's where the conference and I come in and everything. And I also say, this is also very valuable for you to come and talk with my attendees to gain the education specifically from them so they can share with you, because each one is different in how they've partnered with brands, and you need to hear from them their experience on what was successful for their audience and what campaigns worked the best. So in addition to partnerships, they want to learn from bloggers and influencers because they absolutely know. So yes, if you're having trouble like getting brand partnerships and you feel discouraged about sponsored posts or any of that, like you should have your eye very much on the future and be very encouraged and very excited, because for some reason food brands have been a little bit behind, but it's just on this upward trend, and they absolutely need you. They need you. They need influencers.
So if an attendee goes to the conference and there's a sponsor or two there that they'd really like to work with, what is the best way for them to introduce themselves and start a conversation with them? I know you don't want to just walk up and say like, I want to do a sponsored post. Here's my card.
Yes.
Like, what's a good way to open up that conversation?
Thank you for asking that, because this is really important. It's the same as you would with any relationship and any friendship, that you want to think with their goals in mind. So whenever I am pitching a brand, my very first question is, what would be your end goal when you participate in an event like mine? And then they tell me all their pain points. Well, we just haven't been able to make the right connections with influencers. Influencer marketing hasn't been working for us. We want to have better networking. We want to have better brand awareness. So they tell me what they need. And then I'm like, great. So within my conference, here's the best sponsorship package that will help you meet their needs. So when you are approaching a brand, it very much needs to be about them. So asking them like, how do you work with influencers, or what are upcoming things that you guys are focused on as a company? Are there any upcoming products that you are really wanting to market? Is there any mission or any brand awareness goals that you guys are trying to work on? And once they tell you, because if you're focused on them and their needs, as they are talking and having ideas, start thinking about your platforms and start thinking about what has been really successful for you, and then start that conversation. And you just say, you really wanted to market a product. Well, here's an example where I helped so-and-so be able to market their product. And, I'm really rocking it on Instagram stories. And so I really have found that it's most successful on my platform with this. And here's data to do why. So even if you don't have any data, even if you are a beginner, start thinking about how your platforms right now and the places that you thrive, that you feel really confident. Maybe it's your food photography and you initially offer, hey, my food photography has drastically improved. And with this upcoming product that you have, I would love to shoot images for you that you can use across your social media platforms, or something to start getting in the door, where because the truth also is brands are getting bombarded with bloggers and influencers. And whether it's for free product, for discount, for brand partnerships. And where I think a lot of these approaches are going wrong is that they're reaching out to the brand and they're only talking about them and what they can do, which is not wrong, but that's a little bit farther down the conversation. Absolutely, you need to sell yourself and what you can do. But when your first approach, what that appears is that you're only in it for yourself. Whether that's the case or not, that's when you are saying, here's me, here's this, and I charge this amount for posts, like, work with me. Versus you reaching out and saying, hey, I really love your product. I use, like Bob's Red Mill, for example. I sincerely use their whole wheat pastry flour all the time. It's my favorite. So and I have good relationships with Bob's Red Mill. They've been a long time sponsor. So when I reach out to Bob's Red Mill, say, I personally love your product. I recommend it to all my friends. My one recipe with my blueberry muffins, where I really talk about your pastry flour, and it's going through the roof. It's like one of my most popular posts because, in it, a lot of it has to do with your flour. And I would love to see if there's a partnership there, because my followers are really responding to this whole wheat pastry flour and this recipe that's all tied into this. Again, it's about what they want and then tying in your unique offer, fitting into what they want and what they need.
I think that's so important, that approaching it from a what can I do for you standpoint makes it so much easier. And it's, regardless of your size, that's a very, very valuable approach. But especially when you're just getting started, a lot of people say, if I only have 5,000 monthly visitors or 1,000 or whatever that number is, that just seems too small. And they think, well, if I go to a brand and say, pay me money for a sponsored post, they're not going to do it. But if you go to them and say, what are you looking for? And then they just told you literally what you need to pitch back to them. And you can figure out, from what you offer, what your skill set is, what can you offer them that's going to meet one of their goals in a unique way that someone else can't. And they're going to be much more likely to work with you than if you just come out and say, hey, I have 100,000 monthly visitors. That's not nearly as valuable as hearing what they had to say and giving them a custom, like, what if we did this to accomplish that goal that you just said? And they might not even, like your example with doing the photography that they can use in social, they might not even care if you have any followers if you have good photography, because they're using it on their social anyway, and they're not relying on you to get it to a big audience.
Yes. And can I say something that's going to be really controversial? So I know that absolutely, we should be paid for our work. Absolutely. Some of my biggest partnerships have come where I've actually worked for free. Yep. So because my eye has been on the long-term relationship. And so my philosophy is, I want to get in the door and then make them realize that I bring so much value that they cannot help but work with me. So, and I've done this with some really big brands who have now come like 10 times the spend of what I would have gotten at the beginning, the first 2 years of the conference, because I was still trying to prove it out, right? Like, I was constantly trying to prove that I had value and that it was worth spending money on. So my first 2 years, I had to be very, very resourceful. And there was plenty of partnerships that I had to get creative and do for product exchange for the event, because I knew it would help me offset costs with like meals and stuff. So I did have paying sponsors. So I don't want to negate, but I think sometimes we tie so much our value into money in our pocket. And I think we should do a little bit of separation. Because the reality is all of our value, there's not enough money on this earth for us individually to measure our value. Like, our value is completely independent of some price tag that comes with it. So I think sometimes with the community is that, like, we get really upset and then we're like, no, we need money, 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 because it's going to diminish our value. I kind of view it a little bit different. I want my foot in the door, and then I want to make that brand so dependent on my value that I bring them that they're going to end up in the next year, 2, 3 years, end up spending 10 times to 20 times more than they initially paid me. We all have a massive amount of value. Again, it comes back to our beautiful brains that are creating our businesses and driving our businesses. And sometimes the long-term play means right now you provide value for no cash reward. But for the long-term play, you see that this is a long-term partnership that will end up sincerely paying out. And I did that from the very beginning. I had to prove to attendees and sponsors because I had not done it yet. I had not done an event. And so there was a lot of skepticism, but I knew in my heart that I was going to create something so awesomely full of value that they would become dependent on me. And that has been the case. So I know that that's not like popular opinion. It's just a different viewpoint. That have confidence in yourself. The price tag on your work does not diminish your value at all. The money and the value are two very, very different things. And you make that brand so dependent on your value that in a year from now, they're going to be paying you 10 times, 20 times more than you would have pitched for this initial foot in the door campaign. Does that make sense?
It very much does. And I actually agree a lot with you. I feel that there's some brands out there that take advantage of food bloggers as a whole by always wanting free stuff. And I understand certain bloggers not wanting to work with them, especially after a certain point.
Yes.
But there's a lot of stuff you can do with low effort to get in the door with places, like you're saying, to either pitch them, or earlier you were talking about going to these people and saying, okay, with these stats or this campaign that I ran in the past, here's how it fits with your goals. But like you said, some people don't have those stats. Well, you can work with one of these places for free. You can treat it like it was a paying job. You can blow it out of the water and then go to a brand that you want to work with and say, oh, well, I ran this campaign with so-and-so, and here's the results I had. I could do it with you because you're an even better fit than they are. Imagine what I can do with your goals.
Yes, 100%. This is what I have done, and this is what I've learned with sales and doing sponsorships with the event. I am now solidifying sponsorships 20 to 30 times more than I did my first and second year. Like, drastically way more. And it has been that. You need to prove out a model. And once it's proven out and that you have value, it's such an easier sell. It's such an easier sell. And I love what you just said. Yes.
And from a selfish standpoint, you always want to do good work for your clients that are bringing you on. But if you want to try experimenting with how to promote something or try a new type of post and what may or may not work, you don't want to do that when you finally get Bob's Red Mill to give you 10 grand to do the campaign.
Right.
Take one of these free ones, see what you can do, compare the results to what you normally do, and hopefully it works out well, but they're not paying you. So if it backslides a little bit, it's not the end of the world. It's not this huge contract that you just got and now Bob's isn't going to work with you anymore.
You know what? That's so funny that you brought that up, because I actually had that thought not too long ago, because now the brands that are coming on and the amount of money that I'm charging them, I 100% feel confident in what I'm doing, because not only do I give them what they want, but then I make sure we over succeed. Like, I'm all about, I want to over exceed expectations and provide even more value than I promised. So now the price tag that I charge, I do not even bat an eye, and I feel completely confident in that. But looking back on my first and second year, I had the thought, oh my goodness, I'm so glad that these big brands actually didn't sponsor my first year, my first and second year, because now I really know what I'm actually doing. And so it was kind of funny looking back where at that time, my first and second year, I so wanted these big brands to come and sponsor my event. But now looking back, I'm so grateful they didn't, because I had so many mistakes and failures and things yet to make and learn for me to be at where I am now. Now I'm 100% confident in what I have to provide, and charging that price point, I still feel like I'm giving them a kill of a deal, even though it's coming at a bigger price tag.
Yeah, you know what you're doing a lot more, and you're offering them a lot more and meeting their goals a lot better.
Yes.
So it keeps going, getting better and better.
Yes. Yes. And then they end up thanking me. This is like, it's so rewarding because they're paying me for a service, but at the end, they will come and say, "Oh my goodness, thank you for this opportunity. This was amazing. Let's talk about next year." I would not be discouraged about those partnerships that are low paying or product. Again, it comes back to those mental strategy help things, because being an entrepreneur, you have to listen to your gut. Yes, there's other bloggers out there. Yes, there's other events out there, but it comes down to you yourself as an entrepreneur building something uniquely on you. You need to be in tune with your guts and your feelings, because you need to make those tough decisions on what is best for your business. And you can't do that when it's clouded with the chaos. You're not setting yourself up correctly for success. Because when it comes to brands, you need to have clarity on what brands are going to be the ones long term. You're willing to worth the investment now for the long term pay.
On the flip side of this, I think taking that same concept and looking at the deals and the offerings that are out there and see whether they meet your goals. Like we were saying, a free one can very well meet the goals of what you're trying to do for this. And on the other side of that coin is there might be a brand out there that's willing to pay you 10 grand or 20 grand to do work for them that you're not personally aligned, or your blog's not aligned with that brand, and taking on that deal, despite it being a lot of money, might not be what's best for you or for your blog. And so, like you said, your value and the money are very different things. And looking at that and saying, is this what I want? And is this getting me and my blog to the point where I want to go long term, regardless of the pay?
Yes. I've had some opportunity come my way in the back end that would have been a decent payout at the moment, but my gut would not let me make that decision. It was not the right thing for my community and the people that I serve. And everything on paper looked great, but the only thing telling me it wasn't was my gut. And that's where, as entrepreneurs, you have to trust, because we are forging something, we are creating something that does not exist in this world. So there's really no game plan or foreplan for what we're creating. And that's where you've got to really zone in on that mission and that focus that you have, and trust yourself. Just trust yourself.
So important to know where you want to go and to believe that you're doing the right things to get there.
Yes. Yes.
Going back a little bit to people coming to their conferences for the first time, I think you talked about how important networking is. I have some really good friends. One actually lives in Austin that I met at the first Everything Food Conference, and we're still really good friends. And I'm in a mastermind group from a group of great people I met at Everything Food. And you do meet all these great people. But as an introvert, it reminded me of high school, kind of the first day of high school, walking in and there's just people at tables and you don't know anyone. What's your advice for someone that goes, okay, I'm not an outgoing person necessarily.
Right.
I'm going to the conference. I don't know anyone. How can they set themselves up for success to meet people or really start interacting in a more comfortable way at a conference?
I think that's a great question. So, I'm relatively extroverted. And so, I've heard a lot of my introverted attendees and their concerns. And so first of what I do that I want to reassure everyone is that I 100% take on the responsibility of the feeling and the vibe of what's in the room. I know that feeling and vibe 100% relies on me. And so I do everything with organizing behind the scenes to create a warm and welcoming and networking conducive environment. And I feel like we've been very successful because that is my personality. I want everybody, no matter your background, no matter beliefs, no matter gender, whatever it be, every single person in that room is welcome and valued and part of our community. We work really, really hard on that. So I just wanted to bring that up. And on the back end, me, myself, am doing that.
I will say very quickly that you are succeeding very well. You do a great job doing that, and it's a very, very welcoming environment.
Well, thank you. Thank you. That like gave me chills because that is like our ultimate mission. So thank you. And then also if you're an introvert, you need to come in with a plan. So let's say your tendency is you want to sit in the very back table in the very last seat, and if anybody sits next to you, you're going to get up and move because you want to be by yourself. So reflecting on what you know that you do, you got to make a game plan. So when you come to everything food, you say, nope, I'm not going to do that. I'm actually going to sit right in the middle of the room. I'm going to sit at one of the most crowded tables, and I am going to have talking points. Like, prepare yourself, because I'm a big believer that if you say, I don't want to, that means you've just got to do it, right? like you just have to make yourself do it. And so coming in with a game plan, though, I think has been really successful. I know a lot of introverted attendees have done this, and they have left with an amazing experience. But you need to come in with a game plan that you are going to, at every meal, you're going to talk with 3 new people. And at the end of those conversations, you're going to know their names, their blog, what they blog about, and like their business goal or whatever it be. Like, you make a game plan, and then you just got to push yourself. And the thing is once you push yourself that first time, that second time, like that first welcome reception, you push yourself, then guess what? By dinner time, you'll be relaxed and you'll be in the comfort zone. It will not take you much of pushing yourself outside your comfort zone for you to quickly feel welcome and surrounded by your people. Because the reality is, everyone else in the room feels exactly how you do.
Yeah, that was a big light bulb moment for me when I realized everyone else was just as nervous as I was. I wanted to say something just as badly, but was too scared to say anything.
Exactly. Like, you are with your people. Like, you are finally in a room that you can freely talk about food blogging and food influencers, and they get you. Like, these are sincerely your people. So coming in with a game plan, if you know your tendency is to do something, like I mentioned, like sit in the back of the room, then you have a game plan and you say, nope, at everything food, I'm going to pick right in the center of the room or right up in front. Like, do something opposite that you normally would not do. And I promise you, doors, because I've heard story over and over time, when you just push yourself a little out of your comfort zone, I promise you those nerves and things will quickly start going away. You will find people who can relate to you. You will find your people at Everything Food. I'm 100% confident, but you do need to come in with a game plan, and attendees do have a responsibility of also just pushing themselves a little bit out of their comfort zone.
One way that I approach it a lot is I always like being a speaker because I feel like it's an honor to speak at a conference, and you as the organizer and trusting me to make the conference look good. Not everyone realizes that the speakers are separate and not involved, and it always helps me that if I see someone that's not engaged or talking to someone, I think as a speaker I should say hi or I should try to network. And it's an easy way for me that it's not me thinking like Jason should do something and I go, well, I don't know if they want to talk to me. It's like, no, I'm trying to make the conference look good. And if you reframe that for whatever your situation is, that I'm here representing my blog. So me personally, I might not feel comfortable talking to people, but as a representative of my blog, I should go talk to this person. And just reframing it a little bit in your own mind can make it a lot easier and change your outlook on how it can work.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. It's really fun because every year it's just a brand new opportunity for you to truly make it what you want and need it to be for you. Even at an event organizer, I go to events over and over. I'm frequently at events, and every single time I come away with a massive amount of value. Usually, I have a game plan going in, what my purpose is. Every event I've gone to, I've gotten something out because you need to go in with the proper mindset that you are there for you and your business, and you can make things happen and
Mhm.
awesome things happen.
I think what you talked about, writing, coming up with your game plan ahead of time when you're not in that stressful moment.
Absolutely.
Again, when you're not in the middle of it, come up with
Right
your plan.
now, right now, start making the
Yeah.
plan for 2 months from now.
Yeah.
Yes.
Write that down. And then another suggestion I have that I've seen before, and I think at Everything Food, if you think this is a bad suggestion, we can edit this out of the podcast. But force yourself into meeting people. Go on, Everything Food has a Facebook group. Go on there and make a post that says, hey, the conference is in a week. Are there any other dog lovers that are at the conference that don't know anyone that might want to sit at a table? And you can talk to
Yeah.
these other people ahead of time, like, well, now, Elizabeth and Frank are counting on me that if I don't show up, they're going to think I'm a jerk. So now I have to find them at the conference and sit with them. And you have this built in group of people. And if you start off with like, I like dogs, or my favorite colors, chartreuse, like you have something that you can at least chat about.
Absolutely. So there are several posts, and I always love those people who have enough courage to say, "This is my first DFC. I'm going by myself, and I'm scared to death." And then all of a sudden, comment, 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 comment. Like everybody is commenting because they'll be like, "Oh my goodness, me too. Let's find each other and like find a thing." Like you are sincerely not alone. You're not alone. And so if in your brain is telling you, "I'm scared, I'm alone," everybody's gonna be like staring at me and I'm gonna be up on stage all by myself. Like it's just not true. Like you are with your people. Go in our Facebook group. If you comment that and say, listen, I'm nervous, I'm scared, is there anybody? And you will have plenty of friends who immediately comment. And yes, I think it's a great suggestion, Jason.
Cool. The other thing I will say for the people that have gone a lot, if you're a veteran and you know people there, I'm starting to know a lot of different bloggers when I show up. I personally believe that you should still challenge yourself, and you're now representing the conference and those people. If you're with your friends and someone's standing on the side and they're not talking to someone, talk to them, invite them into the conversation, invite them to lunch. Like these people are there and they're nervous, like you used to be. We were all nervous at one point. So try to include these people. And you might not be the type of person that would normally go up to a stranger and say, hey, you want to hang out? But you're a veteran now, and push yourself to do those type of things to keep growing. And again, you're not going to know who you're talking to and who you're networking with.
Yes, and I do just love my people. Like I in the very first year, you were one of my first year attendees.
Yes.
And so there was something special that happened in that first year because like I think I surprised myself. It like turned out way better than even my highest expectation. And it just was like there was just something magical. And so all of those people who have helped me build this community, I just am so grateful that, and there are numerous of awesome people just like you, Jason, who reach out to those people and help people feel welcomed. And that's what I love about it. That's honestly my motivation on why I keep going, is because this is bigger. This is just bigger than me and an event and checking off a list of things that need to be done. It's so much bigger than that. Like I'm in the business of helping other people sincerely change their lives and for the better, and building those relationships and building their business. And it's just like it's just so surreal that 5 years ago, when this was simply a thought and a feeling in my gut, and here we are growing over 100 attendees year over year consistently. And by no means has it just been me, but it's been this overall amazing community that's been built.
I love the community. I love going to the conference and attending, and there's always great information. I mean, we're getting into the amount of time I told you this this would go, but we didn't even talk about the amazing lineup of speakers you have. I think there's over 100 speakers this year.
Yes. We added on over 40 than we had last year. Like more and more speakers, more and more valuable content, bigger brands. Like it's just growing. We have a lot of influencers who will purchase tickets for their spouses or for their teams because there really is something for everybody. And so it's like everybody comes to their team to learn and grow. And yes, there is something for everybody.
So I really appreciate you coming on. If anyone out there, if you're considering going to a conference and want to try one, end of April, come to Everything Food. It is amazing. Whether you're looking for getting to know some brands, whether you want to know some other bloggers to come up with some collaborative projects, or whether you're just getting started or trying to get advanced tips even for so many different topics. Pretty much the conference this year is covering pretty much everything under the sun that you might need to know. You're able to find something that's going to educate you and people that are going to help move you forward, and you can help move them forward. So it's a great time. Go to everythingfoodconference.com and grab some tickets. And when you go there, Cammie's organizing the entire thing, but if you say hi to her, she will stop and say hi to you and chat with you. And it's such a welcoming, great environment. Say hi to me, say hi to the other speakers, and everyone will be happy to make you feel welcome.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me. And yes, we look forward to an amazing, big, wonderful Everything Food.
It's going to be a great party.
Awesome.
This has been Makin Bacon, all about helping you serve your fans, grow your income, and get the most out of your blog. Till next time, I'm Jason Logston.